Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. This is Talk About Your Community, and I'm Todd Nilsson with Clocktower Advisors, your host. And today, this is a special episode. Normally, you see us coming your way every other Friday in the morning, but this was a very specific kind of instance because a longtime friend came back to me and talked about a group that actually I was involved with way back in the day around professionals with disabilities in the IT space. And how could I say no? I'm excited to be able to celebrate this milestone event. And to that end, I've invited my buddy Pat Maher of SPR, and he's brought along with him a friend Brian Chorba. We're going to bring them on the screen in just a minute. Before I do that, though, just wanted to give everybody an update that as far as our regular schedule coming this Friday, we're going to have my next guest is going to be Joshua Selesnik, who is running a business around Dungeons and Dragons for the enterprise. So it combines some things near and dear to my heart: community building and training and gaming. And I really think it's going to be a fun, interesting, offbeat conversation that you'll get a lot out of if you show up, even if you don't know anything about gaming or those nerdy D&D guys who keep showing up in media like Stranger Things and online in various places. I think you'll get a lot out of the session. It'll be a lot of fun. But that's on Friday at 10 a.m. Central. And I hope you'll join me for that. You can find the information about that by going to the Clocktower Advisors company page and following our events and signing up. So you'll get reminders whenever that is coming up. So without further ado, though, I want to bring Pat and Brian on screen here. Pat Maher and Brian Chorba. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about SPR, and then we'll get into the main event here.
Sure. Thanks, Todd, for having Brian and I on. We're very excited. Of course, we both follow your success, and we're really appreciative that you created a special stream for us. I don't know that we deserve it, but we'll take it.
You definitely deserve it, my friend.
Thanks, Todd. I'll let Brian speak to SPR kind of as a strategic company, but I'll say I've been with SPR 16 years since 2004. So I think that's 18 actually. And I was brought in from our CEO, Rob Filio, to direct a channel or service delivery focused, as you noted, Todd, on bringing students, candidates, professionals with disabilities into the tech space. Initially, we recruited skilled programmers from mainframe programming, which your younger viewers may need a lexicon, but in any case, SPR has transitioned with the industry dramatically. I directed this channel called Enablement for a decade formally, but of course we still are committed to this population along with other overlooked and under-resourced populations, like diverse populations within under-resourced communities, women into tech. Um, and as director of civic engagement, my role encompasses all of that, along with many research initiatives of academic teams. I'm most aligned with University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's my longest standing research uh, grant relationship. But ITKAN, as you are well aware and were a supporter of when you were at SPR, as well as a speaker, a SME, uh, 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 and the best SME, Todd.
Oh man, I'm getting the soft soap here.
Anyway, you were always a great mentor, honestly, to me on technology and more leading edge tech because you've always been uh, of that ilk, Todd, as your business when we worked closely together was social syntax on the eve of social media explosion. So you were very fitting for ITCAN mentorship. ITCAN has always tried to present leading edge technology, whether platforms, uh, physical technology in many cases, or languages. The unifying aspect of ITCAN, and Brian, feel free to uh, reference or otherwise note, but I feel was microprocessor control, right? So uh, as we migrated more and more to controlling our server based, and then of course cloud uh, uh, infrastructure. ITCAN has always had fertile speakers, and we'll get into that, but we are celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we're celebrating it virtually. So we'll get into that. I'll let you speak, or Brian, and I'm going to shut up.
No, it was great, Pat. I wanted to give Brian a chance to introduce himself here. For those of you tuning in, we're talking about the 15-year celebration of the IT Knowledge Abilities Network. Yes, I remember what that stood for, Pat. ITCAN, in other words, and a group that I was involved with in the past, as you alluded to. Brian, welcome to the show. I don't think you and I did not have a chance to talk before the session. You are most welcome here. I'm an ex-SPR guy from back in the day, so
yeah, I think we slightly overlapped maybe for a month or two
yeah.
when we started. Yeah. So I'm Brian Chorba. I'm a marketing analyst and Salesforce administrator for SPR, which is a technology modernization firm headquartered in Chicago. We also have an office in the Milwaukee area. And like Pat mentioned, SPR has been around for 50 years, doing a variety of different things. And I've only been with the company for 10 of those years about. And I'm also the marketing administrator for ITKAN.
So it's great to have you here as well, Brian and Pat. Now I remember back in the day when ITCAN was just kind of finding its feet and getting going. There was a group of maybe about, I don't know, 10 or 15 people that came together, for the organization. I'm kind of curious what the journey has been over the past few years, and then of course I want to also be able to talk about your choice of platform for the 15-year anniversary. You were alluding to it a little bit about, that I think it's a platform called Virbela, which is a virtual world setting, which is after my heart, and I'm really interested to talk about that. But can you bring us up to the present with the people that are involved with ITCAN today?
Yeah, of course, Todd. And again, Brian, feel free to add to this. But ITCAN, as you may recall, Todd, we initially met across the street from Sears Tower
That's right.
at the time versus Willis at the Illinois Technology Association space on their 15th floor, which was, for gosh sakes, Terry Howerton runs it, Tech Nexus. So that was their forward leaning kind of skunk works almost. So we met in that space for a couple of years. And then we always had challenges with HVAC noise and, of course, catering to our members, and many of whom had hearing loss, or at least some of whom. So we identified through the support of Microsoft, the MTC Chicago space, Microsoft's Technology Center on the second floor of the ITKAN Tower, facing the lake, Millennium Park, beautiful space. And we couldn't say no. They offered us hosting, and also Adam Heckman, as well as a former Microsoft, Shelley Stern-Grock, were very generous hosts. They also provided Microsoft evangelists as speakers often. And that was outstanding. So they hosted us until just before the pandemic. As I recall, they went through a reconstruction. We were in briefly after that, Brian, I think. But then we went virtual through the Teams platform, which has worked out well. But approaching 2022, as you may recall, Todd, or perhaps after your time, we began creating themes, kind of unifying themes for the year around which we could build topics, speakers, panels, and our theme this year is transformation. And what better way than to transform ourselves, ITKAN, to a virtual community within a VR world or the metaverse. And we explored with Virbela. Probably they spoke 6 months ago, perhaps, and they have been, Virbela's a great company, and they have been so supportive, and they're also highly social enterprise like, in that they're very equity minded and conscious of diversity, equity, inclusion principles, which I know a lot about, as I've facilitated in that space for years. And this disability is not an easy advocacy group to take on for a metaverse based company. And they haven't blinked at all. In
That's
fact,
impressive.
they're,
Wow.
they're so impressive. And Sarah Segrest, they're what they call their VIP of community, she has been, I like to call her our sensei in our journey. She has educated us, handheld, offered great insights on the platform. Brian and I have been very engaged, along with Peter Ramba, one of SPR's developers, as well as Nisarg Thakar, a new member of our advisory team, and it's just been great.
So Pat, this is a really beautiful immersive space, and I had the opportunity to set up an avatar for it, and it was a very friendly experience to go in and do this. I've looked at a number of different, I'll call them semi-immersive virtual worlds, because this isn't requiring me to wear goggles or anything to set it off. But it's definitely it's definitely an interesting environment to be in, and I think the inclusivity of the platform was interesting, because immediately going in, you could see there's a variety of skin tones and body types that are set up as you're creating an avatar experience. So they're trying to be pretty inclusive with a lot of the setup there. Thanks for the reminder, Kalisa. We're, this is open and interactive. If you are jumping in here, please drop a comment in and talk about if you've tried Virbela or similar kinds of platforms for your events. Brian, I wanted to kind of come back to him, and I'll go back to Virbela and sort of the 15-year celebration here. But in organizing the Microsoft Teams meetups, what kinds of accommodations needed to be made for to make that a friendly and inclusive kind of environment? On that end, is that something that you had some involvement with?
Well, we definitely have to make sure that the text features are enabled, and I think there's some other features. It's been a couple months since we've been in there that have been, I think, text to speech might have actually been working to, if correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, but I think that was another very good and important feature that was necessary to be used. I think it should be pretty simple to have somebody to do American Sign Language if necessary, although I don't think in any of the meetings that I've been in, we've had anybody there. Sorry, my cat is.
I see. we're a pet-friendly program. It's not the first pet that's been on the stream, so that's terrific. And I mean, I kind of wanted to point out, because this is about communities, and particularly communities that are enabled through technology. Having those considerations for people that are coming to the platform with a variety of different needs to be able to interact and feel a sense of safety and feel a sense of support and being included is such an important element. And especially for a group like this that has, as I recall, a diversity of disabilities, that need to be accommodated for, making sure that you've thought about, okay, we need to turn on closed captioning or text or speech to text.
Yeah, there's a transcription.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we have one member who has some issues with speaking, and the transcription can still pick him up pretty well, despite his kind of halting nature of the way he speaks.
That's impressive. Yeah, the technology's gotten very good about some of those sorts of things. Also, if there's anyone who has low vision, high contrast visual displays. I don't know what other sort that you mentioned, having someone on who's using sign language to be able to convey ideas as well. I think that's great. I think that comes down to establishing trust with the platform and the technology itself. And then if those things are covered, then it's a matter of making sure that, you're being transparent about, your intent for gathering people together. What organizations are underwriting the gathering, what are their interests, what's in it for them, being transparent about that, and then helping the people that are actually participating to be transparent with each other about what are their reasons for showing up, and establishing trust that you all have similar, kinds of interests and outcomes in mind for it. So you guys are a wonderful example of being able to set the stage for success with that kind of setup. So then with the VR side of things, this is a bit of a new world. So what kinds of reasonable accommodations need to be in place for something like an immersive virtual environment like this to be successful?
Well, I'll speak to that initially, Brian. Of course, you've been very engaged as well, so add to or otherwise. Todd, as I noted, Virbela from the outset has been transparent with us, to use your word, in that they're early in applying a either extensibility or features around disability. However, they already have, when we engaged, they already, Sarah brought up our avatars that they will share at some point, where with several DME implements, whether wheelchair, manual chair, power chair, I think a walker or loft strand or short crutch, as well as looking at ramping their virtual campus. I of late we have begun exploring what blind or severe low vision users or visitors to the campus would need in terms of engaging a screen reader. That's highly, of course, complex. There may be, I would have a vision for things like a haptic feedback element for certain visual sensations that those of us with vision experience. So we're actually engaging several support organizations, one in particular that has a e-learning mission and has been created by blind and blind developers. So Microsoft is also engaged with us through their assistive tech group, Jenny Lay Fleury's group, Adam Heckman pulled them in. So we're exploring. And again, I'd say where I'm impressed is they're just sponges for this. And while not making promises, they're very committed.
Well, this is pushing boundaries for them. And I think for the VR space in general, how does VR, AR, or mixed reality kind of application work for persons with disabilities? And I think that's it's exciting to hear that they're coming out with avatars that are reflective of a variety of different circumstances, that they are and particularly for someone who's not sighted. I mean, you're being dropped into a virtual world, into an open environment without the usual cues that you would have to feel your way around that space. I mean, yes, to an extent, you've got I know when I've been in these kinds of virtual reality environments before, if you approach a group of people that are talking, you'll start to hear them, and maybe even directionally if you're wearing earphones. But it's not like you can take a cane and tap along your way and figure out a direction. I like the idea of haptic feedback, and sort of like maybe even having haptic pathways that would lead me between virtual buildings to find the way. I mean, there's some interesting things that could be done in this space. And I think this comes back yet again to something you and I have talked about over the years. And Brian, I'm sure that you've thought about this as well, that good accessibility is good design. And
oh yeah.
And these platforms have to be thinking about people coming from all kinds of different circumstances to be usable by all. I love that you've got them thinking about these things, and I love that they're being smart about it.
We can't take credit again, Todd. It seems like Virbela was already in this space, or at least early exploration of it. Todd, one of the aspects of communicating within the campus, and you may have picked up on this, is they have spaces which are private, and some of them are in the public campus, where for example, Nisarg, Brian, and I, and Peter the other evening went into one of these spaces. Brian suggested it and had a private conversation, regarding the anniversary. But you're thinking, Todd, maybe we pull you into this process, my friend, because that idea of a pathway for, if I am a screen reader user, if there is a haptic response that leads me on a path to a private space, or with, one or two colleagues or friends from a group, that would be, and that's a great perspective feature. So I may yet yank you into this, Todd.
Well, I love to talk to platform providers around that kind of feature and functionality anyways. So yeah, please pull me in. I would love that. So Brian, I'm wondering if I could switch gears to you for a second to talk a little bit about the event itself. So there's going to be a celebration in Virbela on Thursday. What time and what's going to happen when we enter that space?
It's going to be from 6 to 7 Central Time. We'll be in this area called the Speakeasy, which is kind of like a large party room. And it really does.
Be able to get a beer there?
Probably just virtually. And it's got like a stage. It's got little side rooms. It's got a dance floor, and you can project things up on the stage. Your avatar can perform a variety of different dance moves, and they can open the ceiling of the venue, and you can look up at the night sky, and they drop balloons, and it's a really interesting, fun time.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, there's so much fun and thought that goes into virtual spaces, and I did take an opportunity to briefly tool around the world space when I signed up for the platform, and wow, it's a pretty extensive campus. You go around there, and there's things like running water, and there are ramps. I did check to see there are definitely ramp ways to kind of go from place to place.
They may have just launched that, Todd.
Possibly so, but really, like, these are the kinds of, I think, environments that engage, that right now are typically being used for what your use case is, for an event or a celebration, something with a beginning, middle, and end period. I think increasingly, as they become more efficient and it's easier to have multiple people in these spaces all at once, I think they're going to be 24/7 kinds of spaces. These are going to be the metaphor for communities going forward in online spaces. It's not going to be text anymore. It's going to, that's going to be a secondary consideration, or a support consideration for individuals maybe using screen readers and needing that text interface. But I think most people are going to come into these spaces and experience them as architectural, imaginal kinds of environments that spark creativity and create a certain mood or set a certain tone. And in this case, celebration, for 15 years of making differences in people's lives in the tech space who happen to have a disability of one sort or another. And what a great way to celebrate is using tech to celebrate it. Really
Right.
fantastic. I did see we had a question from one of our viewers, actually a friend of mine, Morgan Burns Nielsen, no relation, although she feels like a sister or a cousin. I'm going to put her question up on the screen here. Are there certain features that you think should be standard practice for use for all companies, regardless of what disabilities are represented on staff, in order to create a culture of inclusivity? This sounds like a Pat Maher question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan, you're a person after our own heart. I would say the bar should be high. And again, with VR, uh, this is a greater challenge. I'm frankly, I expect I expect that Virbela, as Todd referenced earlier, is going to be a standard bearer for inclusivity of disability. So Brian spoke to some features on Teams. For example, I know Virbela and Brian is aware as well. They are releasing text to speech feature. They already have a chat feature and a private chat function. There's again, we're just on the eve or at the early stage of exploring screen reader application. I expect that's going to be pose many challenges, but again, they're up for it. And physical, the world should be, I would apply the ADA standard to the physical world. Americans with Disabilities Act passed in 1990. I think that should be the standard or bar that these virtual worlds apply, meaning even I don't know if there's value in an example would be braille on elevator buttons, although smaller percentage of the blind community reads and applies braille than I think most of us know about. However, I do think the one thing in virtual space that they won't need to address are bathrooms. So I think that's probably helpful because I can't tell you in 41 plus years as a wheelchair user how many nightmare scenarios I run into in bathrooms. And all my brothers and sisters with physical disabilities in particular do the same. So that's one that a checked off already. But that's what I'd say, Morgan, is tune in to Virbela moving forward. I don't know, Brian, are there other features that you think need to be standardized?
In these sorts of virtual worlds, I think, I think kind of text to speech, and definitely making sure that there is a chat function at least are probably two of the key ones. Yeah.
Yeah, we've also recently discussed related to our anniversary party. I brought up, what if we have one of our members or a friend who is deaf and wants an interpreter? So we're still wrestling with that at events, but I know there's a creative solution for that. I thought about uh, the live captioning or real-time cart captioning, but I think I'm missing some of the subtleties or nuances of how that would apply in a virtual environment. So we likely need to have insights provided Virbela from the deaf community as well.
Right. One other thing I want to add is that in Virbela, I think it's very nice that you can kind of navigate the world just by mouse clicks. I don't know if people have used a lot of these kind of platforms, or they're kind of similar to games where you have to use a keyboard to move around your character and use your mouse to move around the direction you're going in, but that's not 100% necessary in Virbela. And we've got a few members that have like kind of effective use of only one arm or hand. So it's very helpful to be able to do that and just move around with just a mouse click.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, can you believe almost 45 minutes have gone by so very quickly here? I would be remiss if I didn't put the website for IT Knowledge Abilities Network up on the screen here. And Brian, if somebody wants to get involved with ITKAN, what do they got to do? Where do they got to go?
They can sign up for our newsletter, or they can just contact us, either myself, Brian Chorba, brian.chorba@spr.com, or pat.maher@spr.com, and we will.
And if you're interested in getting some more information on the 15th anniversary celebration, I invite you to go to itkan.wordpress.com. That's ITKAN at wordpress.com. And you can learn all of the details over there. And hopefully, if this is something of interest to you, you can check out the celebration on Thursday night. You can sign up directly for a Virbela account. I do forewarn you, it is a little bit of a chunky download to get the app on your desktop, but once you've got it, it works pretty smoothly. And you'll need to give yourself a little bit of lead time because you've got to select your avatar. Although I suppose you could just say randomize, what I look like, and just send you on into the environment. Pat, Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope people watch this, and I hope you can maybe share it with some other people that would like to attend. And on a personal note, please say hi to the gang back at SPR for me. I think of you guys often and all the time, and particularly you, Pat, because I always enjoy giving you such a hard time.
I'm an easy target, Todd, as you know. So 2 things in closing. One, we will be projecting a great slideshow of some past ITKAN meetings, or some of them are SPR civic engagement efforts. And secondly, as a teaser for the anniversary party, remember what time of year it is. And this may be a frightening party. So come
Spooky.
prepared.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Pat, Brian, again, thank you both so much. Congratulations for the 15-year mark to you and all the people who've made ITKAN a success, and that makes a difference for people living with a disability in the Chicagoland area and beyond. And I'm hoping to be able to pop in Thursday night as well to say hello and see you catch up with a few familiar faces is my hope. All right, and with that, I think we're gonna close out the day here. Thank you for tuning in. If you happen to catch this on the replay, we do absolutely try to respond to everybody's comments and send you in the right direction if you've got questions or ideas. And again, hope you're able to join me for the next streaming episode this Friday with Josh Selesnik and talking about D&D and community building, Dungeons and Dragons and community building. Super nerdy topic, but I think we're going to have a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. That being said, for those of you who tuned in, thank you again. And I wish you a very happy evening, morning, wherever you happen to be. And we will catch you again here very, very soon.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Really great to be on with you.